Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another live segment. And if you're new here, my name is Skylar Santana. On this channel, we talk about all things watch related. And we have another special live stream episode with a good friend of mine at this point, right? We did an interview last year. We caught up with him at the Philly show. He's a man that's made watches for himself, then took in feedback from the enthusiasts to craft the perfect watch at this point, which we're gonna talk about. And then he's also making us remind ourselves to take time for us. I'm talking none other than Marktime Watches. Mark, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I yeah, I just moved from Virginia to outside Philly, so it was a really nice big move. I've lived all over London, Florida, Texas, Ohio, Colorado, LA, Austin. Yeah, and so now finally landing in outside Philadelphia. It's nice to land. And we've got two kids now, so excited for them to like go to school and all that stuff. So very much big life changes. Have been renovating the house and have been scrubbing a lot of walls and doing a lot of stuff. So this is really just on the tail end of about 4 months of moving, cleaning, construction. And so this is a nice, yeah, this is great.
So with all that going on, that's a lot. And were you able to do anything for the watches on the tail end of the year, or has it just been you've been trying to manage all the personal move and stuff like that? And I know you did arrive very closely to the finish line, if not the finish line at this point for the M6. But how much have you been able to put into the watches with all that going on?
My kid and I work on letters and numbers, and so this many, this much, that's that much time.
I got
Zero.
I got
Luckily, so I've got this interview, which was, like I said, this is a wonderful back to reality of like, great, no more house projects. And then also this weekend, I'm doing the cigar and lifestyle thing in Philly. So I'll be there if anyone's in Philly. Come drop by, say hello. So yeah. Basically, as soon as I'm done this, then that this weekend, and then I think Christmas time we'll take a break.
Yeah, that's awesome. And let me know if you have an official post that you're doing about it. Send that image to me. I'll put that up. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people that view the channel are very big fans of yours, and so I would love for them to have the opportunity to meet you if they missed you out in Philly. So perfect. Um, let's jump right into the M6, and they were updated from the little interview that we did at the show. But go over that again since that is the latest thing for you, and then we're going to transition to what you think is going to come next.
Yeah, the M6 is really the culmination of so many different decisions, feedback, and just trial and error. And I still have a soft spot in my heart for each one of the different M series, the M1, the M3, the M2, which will never see the light of day, the M3, 4, the 5, and then the 6 really is just kind of it's the right indices, it's the right hands, it's the right seconds, it's the
Mhm.
right the case. I think that was a really big one. One of my favorite feedback that I got from the community was, "Hey, you spent all this time in making this like wonderfully unique dial, hands, even a rotor in the back. Like, could you make the case something that's a little bit more unique?" So, decagonal, I never say it right, but that 12-sided kind of case, people talk about it like being like a folded samurai sword,
Mhm.
and it just works. And I think that's been kind of the culmination of so much work. When I first started this journey, I really looked at the market from, basically trench warfare, World War One watches all the way to present day, and just said like what has been done and what hasn't been done. And I
Mhm.
think you saw with the first watch, that was me kind of pushing. It's like uh stop trying to make fetch happen. I was trying to make this big M thing happen. And
Yes.
what was nice about that was it freed me from how do I put it? It allowed me to go fully in my direction, but it wasn't the right direction. Like I think like with the Beatles, it's really good. The reason why they were so successful is because you had all the different personalities pushing and pulling in different directions that
Mm.
made it really well balanced. So the first one is not well balanced. That's just George Harrison just going, sorry, George Harrison fans, but like going all the way one way, but not having the push and pull from the rest of the Beatles. And
Mhm.
then after that, it really was a humbling experience to get to say, okay, I did everything I thought was great. What audience, community, what do you guys think? And that's where it became fun for me because not only did I get, online people saying this, that, the other thing, I then went to watch shows and started talking to people and saying, "Oh, I like this, I like that." And
Mhm.
that has then become the evolution that I've loved about this brand and the watches is that collaborative and community part. I'll bring him up a
Mhm.
couple times. Matt from Richard Harvey, please check him out, and I think you should have him on the show sometime. We've been in contact a lot. I haven't talked to him as much in the last couple months because of the move, but
Mhm.
he and I actually have been going back and forth. He gets all my early prototypes, saying, "What do you think about this, with that?" He says, "Trash, trash." No, I'm just kidding. But and we're actually still kind of working on the next iteration, which we'll get to in a second or in a couple minutes. Um, but yeah, the six is really just the culmination of all of it, all the feedback, all the decisions. And when I look at it, there's not really much I would change. And I think it's weird to say, but what I feel like is after the six, I feel like I have to start from zero again. And
Mm.
um, Mark Register and the Change is a band that I made many, many years ago. Check it out. We're very, very popular, almost 1,000 plays on Spotify. But with that process, I wrote like 250 songs. But for them from there, the producer that we worked with said, "What's in your trash can?" And I love that, and that stuck with me because what's happened in this watch design process is I have hundreds of designs in which that you will never see because they shouldn't be seen. They were the iteration to get there. And so even with the six watches that I made, um, that's just what you saw, not all the different decisions along the way. So I after the six, I did look at other designs where I made before. I was like, maybe that could happen. Maybe I should do that. But ultimately, it's no. I'd rather write the new song. I'd rather make the new watch. And
Mhm.
with the M7, which spoiler is not going to come anytime soon. I've been working
Mhm.
with Matt Richard Harvey Watches in trying to craft that in a way in which that it is more unique. And the main theme for me, at least in the first attempt, is round. I think you see in the M6 is very angular, very samurai sword folded, and that is nailed for me. And so the next thing is like, all right, how do we have just round, soft? And
Mm.
we do have a design, but it's not quite popping for me the way that the six does. And
Okay.
I think that's where um, I've not made the best business decisions, and this really has been a passion project number one because the way that I work is that if I'm not having fun, it doesn't show in the product. And the M6 is me having fun for like the last 5 years of this. And Alan, so Sal Baltimore, we see each other at least once a year from the different watch shows. And
Mhm.
he's like, "So you're doing marketing?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing any marketing." He's like, "You got to do marketing." Like, um, and I've worked in marketing for most of my career. So I think for me, it's my belief is when you have a really good product, the audience comes. And when you have a okay product and then you push marketing too early, it doesn't work.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
I think probably now it's probably safe to say maybe I should turn on the marketing, valve and start marketing a little bit more than zero. But I think for me, uh, my wife keeps me in check and says like, "Are you still having fun with this?" And I
Mm.
love going to shows. I love talking to you on this and seeing you in person, by the way. um
Well, thank you.
but and so that's why like I'm doing the cigar show, and like I'm gonna do district time again next year as well.
Mhm.
um but those are some of those are really expensive. Like the wind up
Yeah.
show, I think is like it starts at like 6 or 8 grand to like
Mm,
be a vendor there. And yeah, that's not I'm not big enough for that one or but for the smaller shows, that's what I love. I love being able to talk to people and just show them watch. And for the most part, like I love when people look at the watch and they're like, "Oh, that's I've not seen that before. Not my thing, but
mhm.
cool." Because
Yeah.
that's really the watch. It's a very polarizing thing of like a lot of decisions were made, and some of them, people don't like. Others are like, "Wow, I haven't seen anything like this before. Yes, I love it," and that's also I love that too. So yeah, to wrap up your question about the evolution of the M6, this is it. This is my opus, magnum opus, whatever it is. This is the
Mhm.
end of 5 years decisions, and then the next one, the M7, is going to be a little while because I have to kind of start from scratch again.
And that makes total sense. My question that comes up right away is that do you feel that you struggle with moving on? Because I think that you're a perfectionist, but I think that maybe because I do that with my videos, right? Like, of course, we were talking a little candidly offline, and of course, I want the video to be the best that I could produce, but also there's another watch that I need to talk about, or there's another subject matter, or there's just at least the next move that you want to make and not prolong it unnecessarily. Do you feel that you struggle with such thing? And because sometimes I have to just tell myself, Sky, this is as good as it needs to be for right now. I love the fact that you want to do some crazy editing sounds and everything else, but the message is more important. Maybe that changes a little bit when it comes to actually producing a product that people are going to physically buy. But how do you feel about thinking that you're overthinking it, and how do you manage that moving forward on the watches?
So the way I approach most everything in my life is I really believe in routines and efficiency. I'm an operations guy. So you build the machine, you build the routines, you build the thing, but then you also need enough time to be able to take a step back and meditate, just not think about it. Because that's actually the time when your brain's kind of figuring out the puzzle for you. So when you kind of come back, then it's
Mm,
ready. In regards to content creation, because I'm gonna jump back and forth on this, because um, the way that I work is I will overthink it for and really come up with ideas and theories, and then it becomes applied.
mhm.
Because my shot list of what I want is perfect in my head. But once you then start shooting it with your camera and your lights and, editing the sound and voiceover, you start to realize it's like, this is not what I was hoping for. But at the same time, you have to finish it. John Cleese has
Mhm.
a great, I highly recommend looking up John Cleese creativity, open mode and close mode, where imagine that you're about to run across a cliff. It's great to be in open mode to think about how do I do this to actually make the jump. But if you're thinking about in open mode how to jump the cliff or should I be jumping the cliff mid jump, you're gonna fall. So I,
Right.
I I think that's what it really is having enough time for open mode to overthink everything, and then close mode, I'm just gonna go do it.
Yeah, and
But
I think that's very well said.
so
Gentleman one is
yeah.
in the chat. I'm sorry, Dave D, who you know by the way, he came to the Philly show, and Hannibal, of course. Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry, I just want to say hi to people.
That yeah, that was more for I think content. I think for watches, that
Mhm.
open mode lasts a very long time for me. And to be honest, it really is vibing off of what feels like what is not being done. And I think
Mm,
that it is a very saturated market, and it took years to be able to kind of get to the M6. So I think to your point of that perfectionism and how do I keep moving? I don't it's very expensive to go make watches,
mm.
and I don't wanna throw another $100,000 towards, like, a project that is a iteration. I want to iterate a little bit more in the design part before I start actually putting it, to metal.
Yeah, yeah. No, and you know what? The more I talk to brand owners, the more that is the going response. I'm like, hey, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And in layman's term, they're like, Skylar, I'm thinking about all those things. You know what I mean? I got to sell what I have right now, and all those things down the pipeline are sure to come. So, for sure, you're definitely tapped in. You're 100% what I like to call a web based brand timepiece maker, right? So, a watch enthusiast brand timepiece maker. And what you've disclosed to us, even last time, and even on this one, is that connecting to people and getting their feedback and really having those in-depth conversations where you'll have the most beneficial feedback is crucial. And I think that's likewise even for me as a content creator, right? It's in many ways I think of myself as a micro brand in the response of people giving me their feedback that is actually constructive criticism, of course. So from that, from those interactions, and I know you mentioned before that you built the watches from the beginning for yourself. Now that's changed, I think, a little bit. I remember you mentioning using a different movement, and it's a conversation I want to have with you for your insight. And I know that you are affiliated with Maryland Time Works. I know Eugene, as a watchmaker, is helping you out. They help out a lot of micro brands on the back end that people don't know about, and Eugene's an actual a wizard, if you will, when it comes to that. What are your feelings about using a more visual movement, something that's a little bit higher end than, let's say, Miyota, which, by the way, Miyota is absolutely fantastic. I'm not knocking it at all. It's super robust. Japanese really know how to make movements altogether, whether we're talking quartz or we're talking about mechanical. But is there any plans for doing something that is a little bit more edited for the movement where you're doing bridges and you're making a nice display? And then the second part of that is an exhibition case back going to be part of that as well? Because I think that it's a little silly for you to do such changes to a movement and then not display it.
Excellent. I don't know if we talked about this before, or you're just vibing with me, but I'll take it as you vibing with me because yeah, that has really been the next big stretch goal, and
Mhm.
part of the reason why I feel like if I do the M7, I that has been, yeah, the stretch goal. So a couple different names and nods to different people. So yeah, Eugene, Maryland Watchworks. Eugene is the reason why I still have fun with this, because at a
Mm.
certain point when I did the Kickstarter release and the M1.2, I had to make so many watches, which is a good thing, but in such like a compact time. And there was just 2 weeks of me assembling watches and regulating them
Right.
that was not fun.
Mhm.
And so my wife at one point said, "Okay, you sold enough watches, like go get help." So Eugene is fantastic. Side note, Maryland Watchworks is now Baltimore Watchworks, or rather, Eugene is now the head watchmaker at Baltimore Watchworks, which is part of Sal Baltimore. Highly recommend. Both of those guys are great. Of the watch community, I think they're fantastic. Highly recommend. So that's that. Matt, Richard Harvey, we've talked about this at length, and I have all the, the George Daniels to the whatever books, in really looking at how do you design a movement kind of from scratch.
Mhm.
So yeah, my my belief and my understanding of managing and leading is you can't really manage direct lead if you don't really understand the granular details. So that's when I got into, okay, what are the mathematics of, like, hey, how do you, with different gears and, the teeth and the different materials, and you really have to get down on that level.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, okay, I think I'm in a little more over my head of, and I also just didn't enjoy it as much. And so then I got into
Mm.
the point of I started designing bridges, wheels, and but in order to properly do that, I needed to know the mathematics of how to build those gears, and all that other stuff. And then conversations that Matt and I had. I'll try to be careful, Matt. So hopefully, if you're listening, I'll try not to disclose too much. But it's it's then the goal of, what do you want? Do you want it to be
Mm.
100-hour time reserve? Do you want it to be super thin? Do you want it to be a chronograph? Like, what exactly is it that you're going for? And for me, I didn't have a clear answer other than, I I wanted it to work and I wanted it to look pretty, and and just feel great. And I think that's, I like thinner watches. I
Mm.
started with really big, thick watches like Glassita, original. I have a big chronograph. But then now I'm like, all right, Nomos. But the Nomos is a little too thin or a little too small. So yeah, to your point of other microbrand owners saying, yes, I have been thinking about it. I am working on it. But that is something where I know that I could go to another watchmaker and say, hey, make a design for me. But for me,
Mhm.
it really is, I want to have the vision, be able to do it. And I have the vision of bridge plates, of wheels, but I don't feel confident enough in which that if I'm going to do that, that means really I don't want to take an existing movement and then just essentially engrave it. I think Ming does a great job of being able to take kind of existing movements and just
Yeah.
decorating them really, really well, and then charging $30,000, $50,000.
Right.
That's not my, at least on my docket now. That's not my price point.
Mhm.
Um, I like it when family and friends can be like, "Oh yeah, I'll pick up a watch. That's not too bad." But if it's like,
Right.
"Oh, how much is your watch? $30,000." Like, "Oh, okay."
Cool.
Um, yeah. And so I think that's where a big part of the conversations that I had with Matt are how do you do kind of that what Ming's doing, which is taking either existing movements or modifying them a little bit, but really decorating them, and it's
Yeah.
expensive. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at a lot of independent watchmakers, especially like in Europe, where their specialty is just engraving. That's really what they're doing, and that's why it's so expensive. They're not making new movements, and so then that's where I'm kind of stuck in between. Is do I want to focus on mechanically making a unique movement that has just the beauty is in the engineering of how it all works, which is I
Mhm.
think the highest level of difficulty, because then you're talking about difficulties with tolerances, different materials,
Right.
and yeah, no one really wants to undertake that. And then the other is just decorating. um,
Yeah.
could we swap this out with different things? But then that really does jump up the price so much that
Mhm.
it then isn't fun. Like it's no longer a fun watch, it's a investment piece. And
Mm.
I think what I like making is it's buying joy. Like I rotate through all my watches. Like I have my M1.2 bronze on,
Mhm.
and I like jumping between the watches. And some people believe that, yeah, go get a really nice watch. Like spend all your money and just get that one nice watch.
Right.
But for me, like I like the variety. And so I have yet to be able to have the Venn diagram of a unique, me mechanically unique, decoratively unique, and then somewhat affordable, that it's not my
Right.
only timepiece.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and you kind of answer some questions by giving us that answer in that I guess your goal is to try and stay within a certain price point, if you will. You're not really interested in going up market. We're seeing a lot of brands do that, adding other things to try to keep up with what they think people will stay interested in by doing so. I mean, just to give an example of what we were talking about directly, Studio Underdog, he takes the ST movements, decorates them, and I think he also regulates the movement as well. But again, as to your point, that takes a tremendous amount of money. And also, there are people that don't like when their brands, if they are a fan of the brand, especially to go too far up market in a time where taxes and tariffs are going to do that on their own, you know?
A couple tangents. Phil at Visitor Watch is doing a great job of finding ways to do things in house. I know Colorado Watch Company does a lot as
Mhm.
well, and I hope that he also recovers. That's a
Yes.
very insider information, not insider, but like if you're in the watch world, yeah. So I hope he's doing well. I'm glad his wife has been able to take over.
Yeah.
Um, so that Phil, and so I like that he's doing that. Shoot, I had another point and I lost it. Oh, up market, and there's a bifurcation of costs, and basically that's what the luxury, like Rolex, all those big guys, they just keep escalating the price. And so what
Hmm.
happens is they're not selling more watches, they're just selling at a higher profit margin. And so whenever you
Right.
look at those watch graphs, it really is like they're selling less watches, but they're making more money per watch. Part
Hmm.
of the reason why micro brands kind of work so well is you get that novelty, like you get the uniqueness, and it's not overly expensive, so you can buy them
Right.
and try it out. Um, and so I think there are certain companies that have really nailed it and should keep going up. I think Christopher Ward is
Mm.
obviously one of those ones where it's like they're no longer a micro brand. They for a
Right.
while now. They're
Right.
they're doing what I would love to do, which is truly making unique watches from top to
Mm.
bottom.
Okay.
But otherwise, what is it? Is it design? Is it some kind of like marketing thing of like, oh, it's got a new movement? It's not as unique, and I think the people who are going to charge more, let's say, $1,000 and up, you're competing with Tudor. You're competing with
Mm.
much bigger brands.
Yeah.
And so, especially like most people are not this into watches. They're gonna like, I get messages all the time from friends of like, hey, what do you think about this? And like, if they know Shinola, that's like them, really being into watches.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
so I think to wrap that one up of the prices, and
Hmm.
I think that my goal is to keep it around $500 because
Mm.
it it doesn't it's expensive enough in which that for most people that's a lot, but the people who are into watches, it's not that bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And going back to for the next watch, and I think you mentioned a thinner watch prior as well. That was going to be my guess, and I have my questions in front of me, and my guess was going to be it's a diver. I know you mentioned it was going to be round, but I would love to see at that point, since you're already messing with fairly thin movements with the Miyota 9039, to be a skin diver, right? I think that that would be a good, and that's just me, you do what you want, it's your company, it's your brand, but I think a skin diver is it's done a lot, but not so often enough, I feel, to where you'll get more so of the conventional divers and everything else. And you really can't go wrong with a diver, even though I know you got some interesting feedback going with the more relaxed version of it, we'll call it.
So one of the issues of making 15 different design decisions per watch is that some of the feedback applies to certain things, but not all things. So the baby
Mhm.
gets thrown out with the bathwater. So I know you're alluding to the M4, which was a very
Yes.
polarizing watch where people were like,
Mhm.
it's a diver, it's 300 meters, but there's no loom. And that's a
Right.
very valid point in which that it's like, I even upped the water resistance for a watch that you can't see underwater. So,
Right.
um, so yeah, I do hear you, and that has been one of those things where I've looked back and said maybe I should update that and add some loom. But is
Mhm.
it that far off from the M6? Like if you think about it,
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
the M6 has a screw down crown. It is
Mhm.
200 meters. It's not 300 meters, but it's a lot more. It's thinner than the M4, which is then thicker in order to be able to be more of a dive watch. But I'm not a diver. I go in the pool with my kids. I'm
Right.
not really. Um, and also I think other people are doing divers. How do I put it? That's all they think about. And
Mhm.
and they do it at a world-class level. And I think that's what I believe is that whenever you're doing something, the goal is to be world-class at it. And
Right.
for me, the world-classness is finding a unique design that feels so familiar and so obvious, but is so
Mhm.
unique in which that it's like I haven't seen this anywhere and I've seen it everywhere. And that was kind of where I'm kind of trying to fit in.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's what I felt with so many of the decisions that have the hundreds of watch designs that you'll never see are those, oh, what if we just like update the diver? And it just doesn't feel like a world-class movement. It just feels like it's this, but then, you add this. To be fair, Skylar, that point is what a smart business person would do.
Mhm.
And I'm not a smart business person. Or let me take that back. I prioritize the joy. I prioritize the feeling like this is something special.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, I was re-listening to my album that I made 15 years ago,
Okay.
and and what I know is that when I make something, I want to make it so good that in 15 years, when I look back, I'm like, nailed it. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes when I would make a watch or watch drafts that didn't make it, it felt like I wouldn't be proud in 15 years when I look back and say like nailed it. It's more of like, yeah, I made some of the changes and it's fine and that's what people asked for. And
Hmm.
that's the fine line is like I did it because people asked for it, or I did it because people asked for it and I align with them and it's a banger now. And the M6, in my opinion, is a banger now.
No, it is. It's fantastic. I was so excited when I pulled up to the table and I was like, okay. He put hardness coating on it. Diver extension, quick release, beveled edges on the bracelet to make it more. I'm like, all right, so this is done. This is overcooked in a good way. Um, and that's what made me so excited to have this conversation of what's to come next and to see it progress and having that interview with you specifically about the watch and watching it progress. And you know what? I might say something that's wild, but I think that your very first watch with a big M might have been better after, like later down the road. I think later down the road, I think people are gonna want to rock that M. You're good. Mark my words, they are gonna knock down your door for that M in the middle of the dial because you've now established a family of enthusiasts, which you probably already have now, and they're gonna want that watch to resurface or do another like reiteration to it down the road.
Yes, I do have a small batch of the bronze when it does hit, but it's a small
Mhm.
batch of bronze, and I'll probably never make bronzes again because they're very
Mhm.
expensive. Um,
Yeah.
but oh shoot, nope, lost it. I was listening to you, and I stopped thinking about what I was going to say next.
No, it's okay. I got you. So, let's have a little bit of fun and go back to what you've. And if you remember out of nowhere, just jump in.
Oh
But
wait, no,
let's
I'm
go
gonna
back
say
to.
it. Wait 1 second.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I knew that I was done with the this series of designs when I was
Mhm.
doing let's add a hardness coating. Let's do the screw down crown, and also like the beveled edge on the interior of the bracelet was like that moment of like, okay, I've tweaked it far enough. Like I've squeezed the juice out of it. And to
Yeah.
be honest, that is one of like such a psychological thing of like I think that if we bevel it a little bit, that it'll be a little bit smoother on the wrist. And I think it
Hmm.
is. I don't know, but I just tell myself that. Yeah. So that was that.
Yeah. No, I got you. And so let's have a little bit of fun. And again, you mentioned the first time around that you kind of fell into this by restoring watches from the beginning. Are you still messing around with that on some super free time, like just messing around with restoring watches at all?
Uh, yeah. So to be honest, my no, my priority right now has been um, uh, two things: being kind and being useful.
Mm,
And with my kids, that really means just kind of showing up and um, being willing to get muddy every day. And working on watches is not really conducive of interacting with my wife and my kids and or other people. And so my yeah, I haven't been I have not marked time for myself as much when it comes to that because it really requires me to sequester myself into a locked room where no one bothers me. Um, and that's not fun for me anymore. And I think to your
got it.
point, that is where I started, and that was COVID. COVID was I was literally sequestered off in this like isolated thing, and I was like, great, I'm gonna go work on watches.
Hmm.
But now that the world has opened back up and the priority for me is um, usefulness and kindness, which means other people.
Yeah.
Being useful and kind to a watch is not as useful. So yeah, I've shifted my priorities more away from physically making watches into
Hmm.
the community, the people, and yeah, and my immediate family too.
That's awesome. And you know what? I get feedback sometimes from some of the guys here because they're on my live streams quite often, right? And I actually had people contact me and commend me because one of the things that people know who are on the live stream quite often know that I say hi to my wife when she walks through the door while I'm live, and I'm like, "All right, guys, just so you guys know, that's your cue that we're landing this plane." Because, look, man, this is super fun, right? And we're allowed to have fun, and you turn it into a whole profession. But even still, to the brand's essence and ethos, you want to mark time for yourself so you can show up for other people, and the other people is what we're doing everything for at the end of the day. So yeah, I love that you gave that response, and yeah, people have fun with me and everything else, but they I've actually had like they tell me like as a husband, and like I really admire the fact that you shut it down when your wife comes home. And I'm like, yeah, like my wife is a very big priority, and she trumps everything else. She makes my food, as I like to always joke around.
You wouldn't
So either I'm
survive.
not going to
Yeah.
eat or I won't be here for the next live.
Yeah,
um
I think, if you really want to dig deep, I made like a What You Seek post on like originally of like what the brand is and the story, and there's like so much, and it doesn't really translate to everyone else. But I do think the mark time for yourself has stuck, and I know the most recent thing for me is I was going 7 days a week, morning until night, for about
mhm,
4 months until like I was breaking every week of like throw my hands up like I'm done. Um, and I now take Sunday, I just take off. I watch TV. I don't do anything productive. I don't drink coffee. I just
mm,
like I veg out and I make myself kind of useless and not kind to anyone. So that the other 6 days I'm kind. But yeah,
right.
I'm just a potato that's useless and grumpy for one day so that the other 6 days I can be useful and kind.
I hear you. Know thyself, so like that, you can balance everything really nicely. So Hannibal's asking, are the watches still manufactured in Germany or China or both?
Great question. I did look into Germany, manufactured in China, assembled, regulated in Baltimore now. Um,
Mhm,
the Chinese company that I work with, they specialize in working with German brands. I'm not allowed to say the exact brands, but what I can say
mhm,
is they make 30, $40,000 watches. So it took me a very, very long time to find that manufacturer, and they're fantastic. And so
mhm.
um, at first, I wanted to like share it with everyone, but it took a really long time to find. So I kind of like no, they're mine.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like one thing that I'm sad about is like I have not made the next prototype with them already. And
Mhm,
and they're like, "So are you ready?" And I'm like, "Not yet, but I do really want to make another one with you guys." Um
mm,
yeah, so I did look into German manufacturing. So quick lesson on this. Germany is even more laxed than Switzerland. Switzerland is like
mm,
really like it's 60% of the watch value has to be made in Switzerland, but basically like everything, most everything is made in China, then gets shipped to Switzerland, and they essentially assemble the watch, and that's how it's like made in Switzerland.
mhm.
I know the last guy who was on, he talked about what did he say? How it's made, not where it's made. I think that's what he said.
Right. Yes, he did.
And I remember delving deep in the forums of like, hey, what's better, the Swiss Salida 201 or the Japanese Miota 99 series? And like
Mhm.
ultimately, people said, people who were really in the watches, they're like, the 9 series doesn't break, the 200 does. and
Yeah.
and so that's where I really looked at is like, all right, how do I get as close to the source upriver as possible? And once I found this manufacturer, I'm like, these are the guys who's making it for the guys who are selling it for tens of thousands of dollars. So like, I feel pretty confident with these guys. And then
Mhm.
same thing with the movements. It's like these are the guys who make the movement to make it the absolute best at the best price. And so yeah, the Miota 9 series like uh, it almost feels like cheating because like once I found that, I was like, yeah, that's
Hmm.
they're doing what I set out to do, which is make it really, really good, really thin, high quality. It just works, it's bulletproof, and at a good price. So yeah, that's my long answer to where is it made. China, Baltimore, where it gets regulated. Some of
Right.
the watches are assembled there and regulated, but all of them are regulated. Unless I do it myself, then it's in Philly. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I either way, somewhere down the road, I try to rope the person I'm talking to that makes watches into that question because the going theme that I've heard is China has fantastic facilities. And I think a lot of people, whether they like it or not, or believe it or not, just relate it as cheap things being built out of there. But there's been so many brand owners that I've spoken about, and they don't tell me exactly the facilities that are there because, like you said, that's like a valuable thing if you want to trade it with somebody that's in the industry. That's your terms, but they're so regulated, they're so dust free, they're so clean. It's crazy, and I've included Siegel, for instance, right? We all know Siegel
I
and
love
the
that video
movements
that
that
you
they
just
make.
made.
Thank you.
That was
And
well
if you look at
researched.
Thank you, sir. And so when you see the videos of their actual manufacturing, you see the high-tech machinery, how clean it is, how many watchmakers are there. Of course, they're a huge example of it because Siegel's a very big brand, and I was very gracious that they reached out to me for a review. Uh, whilst I did that research, I was very impressed with how modern and how clean and how organized everything is. And it's not just Siegel. There's a lot of places in China, Hong Kong, there's manufacturers that do a fantastic job. And guys, so if you ever have that feeling or that notion, and I don't really get it because like everything that you own is essentially being worked out through there. And so it's just a matter of the quality that's coming out of there. And a lot of people are telling me, like yourself, they're making a lot of big brand name stuff as well. So take it or
Yeah.
leave it.
I know. So photography and videography is like my other passion, and I just bought a large, medium to large format camera. And ultimately, when it comes to like lenses, like Japan makes like the best lenses, and especially like in the '90s as well. They just make some banger cameras, and
Mm,
so. Tim Cook talked on China because someone said of the argument of like, oh, it's cheap if it's made in China, and he said the fact is that they have the facilities, they have the expertise to build at scale, at quality, more than anyone else. And I think that's
right.
the issue is that the US, yeah, even Switzerland, like most other countries are not investing the same way in which that China is of making these high quality facilities and operations at a lower cost. Um, yeah, so Matt and I talk about this a lot. I know Phil is thinking about this from Visitor Watches of
Right.
how do we make something in America and have it be high quality but not too expensive. And again, it's that Venn diagram of things, and it's really hard. So
Yeah.
that's a macroeconomic thing that is beyond the scope of what I do.
Yeah, and I would love for it to be brought back over and have some watchmaking things go on in the US, but unfortunately, that's the reality of it. The moment you do that, okay, you say you want that, but are you going to pay 5 times, 6 times, sometimes more X the amount of price to make sure you have that USA stamp on it? I don't think you will. I don't
to
think
ju-
you will.
to jump back to that like made in Germany thing, when I was looking at for German manufacturers, what I found is only Glassita is actually made in like Glassita, and they really do like good stuff, and it's
Mm,
made there. But in Germany, it's like they can just stamp it like made in Germany. It's fine. So I did think about that at one point, where essentially there was a company that they ship all the parts from China to them, they assemble it, and then you can say it's made in Germany. And so I was like,
mm,
why would I charge customers more for a watch to say that it's made in Germany when ultimately like it's either assembled in Germany or assembled, in the US, and it's like and regulated. And I was like, yeah. So anywho, the people who are watching this know how it works.
exactly, exactly. And I love that you also added in the regulation of your movement too. Those are really super nerdy and super watch enthusiast targeted, and that's what your brand does. And I love that that feature is included as well. Even though I honestly, good, were you going to say something?
I think it's just one more check of QC of just making sure it's like, hey, everything is working properly.
Mhm.
And so it's like, well, if you're already in there, you might as well like regulate it and make it a little bit better. So yeah. But for the
Fair
most part,
enough.
a lot of them are kind of already there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. That was gonna be the next thing. I was gonna say, honestly, Miota, even with the Seikos, and I said this with the last interview that I'm sure you watched because you mentioned it a few times. Even with the Seiko movements, the tolerances are nowhere near, at least not when they get in my hands and I mess around with them. I mod it a lot and everything else. And Miota's like even better. Like it's almost always single digits without the brand saying that they regulate it. But there is a question there, and the question is, you're regulating it in one position.
Uh, Scholar, why are you pointing out all my flaws? I regulate them in one position. What I'll do is I'll flip it to like one or two other positions to just see. Um, and
Yeah.
and so like regulated in five positions. So maybe you can correct me on this, but my understanding is when you're regulating in five positions, you're moving it to the five different positions, but you're not
Mhm.
regulating it each time. Basically, what I do is I look at the position in which that it's most off and then kind of like calibrate it for there. So like if
Okay.
there's a range of like 10 seconds, I'm going to try to find the one that's like right in the middle and then calibrate for
Okay.
that. So it'll be like 0 there, but then like in another position it might be like +2 or +4 in a different
Yeah.
position. So that is the one thing where the Salida 200 I do like better is that you can
Oh,
take a 200 micrometer screwdriver and get it. It's just easier to calibrate. And Eugene at Baltimore Watchworks, he's like, F you, why are you making me regulate these Miotas? Because they're so damn difficult to regulate. Because basically it's a little fork and you take the screwdriver and you just like nudge it a little up, nudge it a little down. So weirdly
mhm,
enough, it takes longer to regulate those Miota 9 series than it does for a Salida 200. But
mhm.
once they're regulated, they just last longer than the 200s.
Gotcha. And then gentleman asked, "Sounds like making watches suck the soul out of you. No fun anymore." And then I asked him, "What do you mean by that specifically?" Hold on. And then he says, "When you asked about assembling watches, the way he described it gave the impression that he doesn't have the joy of building watches." And I think you addressed that by saying that, yeah, I mean, the whole thing, the whole brand, just so you know, gentlemen, Mark has moved through the brand where whatever he's doing, and he corrected himself when he said he doesn't care if he's professional. What he meant was what's more important to him is if he's enjoying whatever process, whether it be designing, building, QC, whatever. He wants to do it in a way where he is enjoying doing the project. And that's because, speaking as a content creator, that's how I've navigated this channel, is because there's a tremendous amount of energy. So therefore, you want to latch on to something that is going to give you rocket fuel when you wake up in the morning instead of feeling like a drag. We all have jobs in the morning. So I already go through that, even though I kind of love my daytime job. Most don't. But the point is that you're doing this passionately first, therefore you can have unlimited energy. And you can correct me if I'm wrong in that statement, Mark.
Uh, yeah, sounds like it sucked the soul out of him. It's like, yeah, yeah. Um, no, Scholar, I think you hit it, which was I've done every part of the process, and
Yeah,
it was fun at each step of the process, but
right.
different things change. I think like if you have a day job, it's like great. My day job, I don't always love it, but like I'm really good at it. I'm gonna go do it, and that's something
Right.
where with the assembly and the regulation, like I still will assemble and regulate small batches.
Mhm.
But at the same time, once we get into larger batches, it's just that means I have to like not see my family for, days or weeks at a time because like
Yeah.
I just have to like hunker down because in order to properly just like work on a watch for fun, it's
Mhm.
for me, it's like it's hours at least.
Yeah.
And I don't have that luxury right now with my kids. I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Mhm.
And so even if I lock the doors, like, yeah, that doesn't go well. Um, Yeah. Did you wait? What was the question? Oh, no, I remember. I wanted to ask you a question about this because
Sure.
my belief is when it comes to doing anything that you're passionate about in which that you kind of like doing as a job as well, it's like make the job that you want. So if you're a photographer, it's like if you hate shooting weddings, like don't shoot weddings. Like go shoot the things that you want. So when it comes
Right.
to content creation, like right
Hmm.
now you have your live series interviews, you have your live kind of like rants, you have your like highly produced reviews, and then I
Hmm.
think you kind of have another one of kind of researched. I don't know, but you have like multiple series, and
Hmm.
I can see you refining them. Your lighting, like I noticed you start doing that light move. That's so, and I'm like, I gotcha. Um, and then the rotating one, and so like I see you looking at the market and saying, okay, what are the best people doing, and you incorporating that into all of your different videos, and
Yeah.
like your audio quality getting better, except for one thing, your plosives with the
Oh,
mic that you have now. So either get a
yeah.
bigger windscreen, whatever, but still way better than it was. And that's all you can ask for is just like, are you moving up and to the right?
Yeah.
So wrapping this into a question, what what content are you making in which that you feel like this is a joy, and what content are you making that it's not a joy but it's the right thing to make?
So, very easy. The first answer is going to be stuff like this, right? We were talking a little bit before we went live. And so, obviously, I don't have to do any editing once this is done. It's the most beautiful thing. It's the thing that takes the least amount of energy, but it's more than that. I like the live interaction. Even if I had to sit and do an edit of 30 hours of this, I still like the fact that there's just a rawness to this kind of content. And I think that that was always what I was trying to embody from the beginning, whether or not it was recorded or not, to some degree. Um, to answer your second question, as far as the editing and the biggest thing that takes the most of my time is those fancy edits and everything because it goes from script to A roll to B roll to sound effects. So there's a lot, and I told you this: an 8-minute video can be a 30-hour progress from very beginning conception to end. And I didn't even mention all of the things that I have to do. Right, I have to title it, I have to make a thumbnail, everything I'm doing on my own. So I feel like those videos are still necessary, even though they take the most life drain out of me. Because something I want to give you, and this may be answering another one of your questions, is that I've now changed my notion of how I want to be a content creator on YouTube. And, I'm okay with it being more of a business type of look, even if it's like a side hustle that I enjoy, because what I've learned very rapidly is that this costs money regardless. You mentioned my mic hitting those, and so if I want to get a better windscreen, if I want to get a mic that picks up better volume, because the reason why is I always keep the mic very close to my mouth, and I had issues with sound, and no matter how much editing on the back end, I can't get it to come to the levels that I like to enjoy. So I've struggled with sound, even though it's improved drastically. And so if I want to get a better mic, those things cost money. So the hobby can't be a drain to my first responsibilities, which is my family. And so, yes, I'm okay with getting better and turning this to a more of a side hustle. I don't know if it'll ever be a main thing, but I hope that answers your questions. I think I covered it in that.
Is there any content that if you had more time and resources that you would do?
More time and resources. Yeah, yeah. So to your point of loving shows and the interactions with them, I would travel more and want to be part of more shows around the world. Yeah.
So the reason why I'm so inquisitive about like you and your process is
Mm,
there was a time where I was planning to do a trip to Germany where my wife's family is outside of Mainz. And I had a Excel list of all the different watchmakers in the area that I was going to go to and do
okay.
interviews. And that's what like professionally, that's also what I did as well for different companies. And so I was so excited. I did all the research, I had all the interviews lined up. And then I realized it was like, I'm going to leave my wife and her family alone to then go travel
Mm,
all over. It's going to cost a lot of money. And also the amount of, in order, like whenever I do things, I need to do them at like a really high level because my expectations is just higher. And so it was like, all right, I need to invest lots of money in equipment in which that I don't know if I'm going to do again. And then the
Yeah.
other is the amount of time that it'll take then for post production. For I had like 20 different interviews that I wanted to do. Um,
Mhm.
it would have been so much to do it at the level that I want. And so uh, done is better than what was it? Good is better than finishing something is better than perfecting something that you never
Perfecting.
finish.
Yeah.
And I think that
Mhm.
goes into an early part of our conversation, which is like, at what point do you just like go and do it? And I think for me, the curse that I have is my expectations for anything that I do, releasing a watch, making a video,
Yeah.
is so high that I really need to feel confident that I can follow through with it at that level.
Mm.
And so to your point, I hear you. I needed to get, I need to buy two new cameras, two new lenses, which I have like really nice cameras and lenses, whatever. I need to buy two new lights. I need to then get two more additional things. And all of it was going to be like 15 grand to like do.
Mhm.
And I was like,
Yikes.
I would rather put that into something else because ultimately, if I did that video series, the other part is I thought about this of, oh, well, I can just interview all the other micro brands. But the issue is that if you're a micro brand interviewing other micro brands, um, the incentive of other micro brands to talk to you is not as high. But if you're a neutral third party like Skylar, you kind of have that, access of like no one's threatened by you because you're
Right.
not competing with them. And luckily,
Right.
like most micro brands don't, but they're, it's kind of like high school sometimes. It's like there's some people who, whatever. But
Mhm.
yeah, I hear you with that, and I hope and you do travel to like you travel to Philly, you travel to yeah. So
Super
you're making
local.
smaller travels, but I hope
Mhm.
that you are able to section off either time and or money to be able to do more travel stuff because I know I have a blast doing it, and it sounds like you have a blast doing the shorter trips.
Yeah, and I technically, when I say time, it's more like, to your point, it's time away from my wife. It's time away from my immediate family and everything else. So I'm not willing to sacrifice that. There can be scenarios where she'll come with me, but she's an incredible woman and she puts up with watch talk as much as she can on a daily basis. So to tell her, hey, we're going to get on a plane and do all these things. And so my wife is my best friend. We've been together for 18 years. Oh no, 19 years, probably closer to 20, and I'm 36. So you could do the math. And so when I show that level of respect for my wife, and I'm not afraid of my wife. I do sure as hell respect her, and I wouldn't be half the man I would be today without her support. And I know I say that with you specifically because I know that she has supported your adventures with the watches and everything else, and that's why now with kids, especially, oh yeah, I'd shut that crap down. Like they come first, period. So I resonate with that.
Yeah.
Um, so I did have a couple of other things. I don't know if you have any more questions, but I remember on the last live you spoke about kids watches, and that actually got me excited. And again, all of these things, look, Mark, I know that these are down the road things, but I just wanted to know, like, is there any more thought to that? And the ones that I've been privy to is block watches and share watches, and their idea of watches for kids is a construct that gives them the ability to learn how to read time now in this very digital world, in the analog state. And block watches tends to be a little bit more upstream. Shear watches seem to be a little bit more affordable, but I still think that there's room there for an in between. So you might want to research them. But I surely wanted to ask you, like, have you thought about it at all with that process?
Oh yeah. A couple things. I'll keep referencing Matt from Richard Harvey. You should talk to him and ask him when he's making his kids watch because I know he's gotten further with designs for kids watches than I have.
Mm,
But we've gone back and forth. What I have found is my 1 year old and my 4 year old, they do not care at all about things that are made for kids. They care about the things that I'm using, my wife is using. Like they want the normal
mm,
stuff. And so my kid wears my watches. Um, I would not let him wear my watch if I didn't have more in the, in storage in the closet.
right.
But yeah. So uh, I thought about making like smaller watches, like a 33 millimeter watch,
Hmm.
But the issue with that was then it's like who's your target audience? And with kids watches, they're meant to be cheap. They're meant to be not only a beater watch, but like a truly like toss away watch. That said, I have bought a couple G-Shocks for my 4-year-old,
Hmm.
but he doesn't like wearing those as much as he likes wearing, these watches because he sees me wearing this. He's like, I want to wear that. I'm like, sure, knock yourself
Hmm.
out. And I don't think he's fully broken. He's broken a bracelet, and he's definitely the M5. He definitely banged up. No, no, the M1.2. He's banged up badly. But it still works. It's just the case is just banged up. Um, so yeah, I looked down that road, ask Matt from Richard Harvey if he's going to make one, or tell him to make one. And ultimately, I'm going to keep making watches that I love because ultimately that's what my kids are interested in, is like what is dad interested in.
Yeah, and wasn't he at? If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Richard Harvey at the Philly show that
Yep.
just passed?
Yep.
Yeah, I spoke to him. I spoke to him. I liked his watches, like that pilot style, colorful. I think I just pulled up the website really quickly. He makes some nice watches. So, yeah, maybe I'll get him on the show and do something like this as well.
He has another
The
watch
last
coming out too.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yep.
So then maybe I'll get him within that transition of releasing the new stuff. The last thing I had on my list here was talking about quartz movements. Any thoughts to doing quartz movements, and if so, what would be the benefits for you to do so, and what type of quartz movement would you want to focus on?
I'm more inclined to want to do a hand wind, really ultra slim movement first, but then that
Mm,
gets really expensive. And to be
sure.
honest, that was one of the other designs that I really wanted to do.
Mhm.
Quartz, I know that there's mecha quartz stuff that has a higher tick rate, and
Right.
that's kind of interesting, but at the same time, there's something about just like the adult fidget spinner. Like I love just opening this up and looking at the back and just like going like this. My kid does it
Mhm.
too. And with the
Mhm.
quartz, it doesn't have the same feeling for me. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like I wish that I enjoyed quartz more, but I know that when I did have nice watches like a Seiko or whatever when I was younger, it didn't resonate with me as much with the quartz because it
Mm.
felt like when is the battery going to die, and then like I got to replace the battery, and then I feel like my memories of watches were there's a watch but the battery needs to be replaced, and that just
Right.
sucked all the time.
Yeah.
And with a mechanical, it's just like it's this, or you wind it a little bit, and then it's ready to go. And
Mhm.
so I think when it comes to just experience and enjoyability, um, I have my wife's grandfather's watch, and it's a quartz, and I've replaced that battery 3 times, but the battery keeps dying. Maybe I need to buy better batteries. um, but yeah, it's not as fun for me. So I have thought about it, but no.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, and I think that I was just throwing it in there just to see what your response and how you felt about it was, but I feel like it's more romantic. If I'm thinking Mark Time watches, I'm definitely thinking about a hand wound being a better move because I mean, look, there's also situations where some people are just removing rotors, right? To get around that very expensive movement. Now that can go two ways, right? You can have somebody who feels like that's not a genuine way. I think the more important thing is to get something with a slip when we talk about constructing that, because just some people will wind it too much and go past the point and damage the movement. So I do like to see that kind of mechanism if they're going to go with hand wind only to get that super thin watch. We're just going to have to wait and see. Did you say everything that you wanted to say about the next watch coming out, the M7?
Um, Real quick on the hand wind. So the other part was part of the reason why I didn't go with the hand wind is one, a lot of people don't like it. But
Mm,
the other is one, it would be a lot more expensive. And then two, it would then require me to really focus on engraving those bridges and the wheels. Because if I take away the unique rotor, then the design is just, the stock movement. Um, so that's that. For the M7, I would love to hear your feedback. Like, if anyone has thoughts or feelings about it, like let me know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, again, I hope you get Matt on, you talk to him, but he's done a great job of mocking up the first, I think, good design. It'll be more round. I
Mm.
think that, but we'll see. So immediate, more round and stretch goal, more decorations in the back, but I think just more round for now.
What's the deal with content creators, watch reviewers? I've seen not just you, I've seen a lot of people backing off of it. Is it a thing where you're just not believing in it anymore? And I'm not saying just you. I'm saying in general, I'm noticing a wave of, specifically from last year, where I saw a lot more reviews coming out of Set Watch for brand. Um, how do you feel about marketing your watches with reviews? And I know you touched on needing to up your game in reviewing. I mean, of course, I'm super biased. I'm going to tell you that a watch review is the best way to do it. But the right watch reviewer is really what I should be saying responsibly, because, and I've told this to my viewers, um, it's not all sunshine and rainbows with watch reviewers. Not all watch reviewers are created equal, and some are jerk offs. Like, I just, to speak candidly. And so, you know, is there a reason why, other than maybe you just haven't thought about it or haven't put energy into it, or were there particular situations that made you feel like this is not for me for now and I just want to stop? Just curiosity.
So for you, Skylar, your special, beautiful snowflake,
Wow.
send me your preference on color, and I'll send you a M6
Okay.
to go review. The reason part of it has been I've been moving and under construction for the last 4 months. The
Mhm.
other is um, I think the watch reviewers that have the most amount of viewership are really kind of focusing on like literally micro. I'm gonna look at like I'm gonna find the flaw. And um, I like watches. I think that's yeah. The British guy, he's really nice. I really
Yeah.
liked him, and he
Mhm.
did like a really negative review on the M3, which really did like hit the needle of just like it fell short just by like a couple thousand of hitting the Kickstarter goal, and part of it
Okay.
was because him saying like this is not wait for the next watch because this one's like crap. But the
Mm.
weird part was the M3 is actually one of the most popular watches I ever made. But his video just like tore it apart. And
Okay.
weirdly enough, like I'm kind of making speculation. He took the video down. I actually linked the video in my website saying
Oh,
like, "Hey,
wow.
this is these are what the prototypes are like. If you're wondering
Right.
like what things will look like, because they sent him a prototype." And
Mhm.
so I think that made me for the larger watch reviewers, I was just like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I want people to be excited about the watch and not try to find the flaw. So there's that.
Mm.
The other is then watch reviewers who then it's the business where a lot of them
Yeah.
are either they charge money or they get
Mhm.
the watch and then they go sell it afterwards.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
feels like I understand, like we're all trying to, we all have lives, we have businesses, take care of
Sure.
things. And so I
Right.
don't, it's not bad. It's just I don't like then giving the watches to people who don't actually care about the watch. So yeah, I mean, Skylar, I'm open to it. I know at one point you said you'd be happy to, either make recommendations for other reviewers or send it to other reviewers. So let's
Mhm.
talk offline about one, getting you a watch, and then if there's any other reviewers that you recommend sending it to.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. You know what? And I'll just to give everybody a little bit of insight. What was the point I was going to make? Look, I don't want to let anybody off the hook, but just you saying things generates ideas in my mind. And I can tell you that it's been a question about my reviews myself, right? So I think, to be fair on every single side, I think there's also a certain amount of pressure as a watch reviewer. And I'm by no means a big watch reviewer, and I don't do this full time. I've disclosed that. But I feel like there's this underlying pressure sometimes to, like, I have to find something wrong with this watch. Otherwise, people are going to think that I'm being total biased, which may affect my future views of set person coming back onto the channel, being called a shill, so on and so forth. Now, I'm not relating that to the example that you gave. It may be a completely different scenario, and he has some super macro shots too, so he's very very thorough. And also, there may be other things once you start paying reviewers that are involved with how they navigate and everything else. I make things very simply, right? You don't have to give me the watch, and of course, I'm not a full time YouTuber. So if you have to sell watches because you have to feed your kids, then I'm not talking about you. You do what you got to do, and whoever is your relationship, that's your relationship. But for me and what works for me, I keep my watches. I have your, and by the way, this is a very special watch, because you were the first person to give me a watch, which that wasn't even planned, right? You were
Yeah, it was
giving
an
me
accident.
everything on. It was a beautiful
That's
accident though, for me at least. And so and I think that I don't know what compelled you to say keep it, but
oh,
the point is that all the
yeah.
content was already made before you made that decision.
Yeah, I shouldn't say this, but I don't. In full disclosure, I think that was one of the watches where it was like there was something. There's always like something not quite right with it. Like I don't want to sell it, and I think I had it for my personal watch, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I think that's what it was. And then so what I do is those watches that have like ever so slight imperfection that you'll never know unless like you're really, really like looking at with a macro lens. That is where like either friends or whatever, I'll just be like, hey, you'll enjoy this watch and you're not going to worry about being like, I think I see the thing. Um, so yeah, I think that that was one of those watches where there was something that was like so minutely like not quite right, but I was like, just fine.
If I remember correctly, it was something that you could even reverse. I think it was just like a couple of dust specks underneath on the dial
Probably.
itself. It was nothing, or maybe there was something else. But anyway, yeah, the point
Oh,
was that you gave it to me, and did you remember?
yeah, last thing. I think when I first get watches and I'm assembling them, and especially with the 1.2s, there was like a batch of like six that I made that I just simply made as quickly as possible because I wanted to wear them. And so I just
Mm.
had like, so I think that's one of them is that like I very hastily made because I wanted to wear it when I first got them.
Yeah, 100%. This was you told me that this was your personal watch, which made it
Yeah.
even more special. And so one thing that I always say, and when I'm in talks with Set Brand, they say, what are the expectation? What are the terms? And I say, hey, look, if you want me to borrow it, I'll borrow it. I'll send it back. No problem. I'm not even mad at that, honestly. It's just a matter of me having enough time too, right? Because if I'm borrowing a whole bunch of watches, your clock starts when you know that the watch arrived, which
Yeah.
I don't like, because then
Yeah.
it's like I get the email where it's like, so how's it going? And I'm like, it's going. You know what I mean? So that's the advantage of me being able to keep the watch, but also I keep the watch because I'm a content creator of watches. I need watches to talk about it. And when I do these live streams, I bring set watch up on stage when it's
Yep.
relative to the topic when I'm not doing
Yep.
something like this. I think that that's how it should be handled personally. Um, and everything else. But again, I can't speak for somebody who's doing this full time. I don't like to speak out of pocket if I'm not living that, right?
I hear you of the pressure of if you're just a shill, that's the fluff piece, just saying like it's a great, it's great, it's great. Like you then lose credibility of being a watch reviewer. And like and I think there's a couple watch reviewers that kind of focus on it more holistically of
Mm,
not just like here are the specs and here's the thing, whatever. And it's more of just
mhm,
like it's great for this. Like I love it with this. And
right.
it's much more of like the enjoyability of having the watch as opposed to the specs or like this. I think both are needed. Like when I'm looking for
Mm,
new cameras, like I look at all the MFT charts, I look at all the like minute details, but then ultimately, like, do I enjoy using it? Like, is it
right.
ridiculously oversized and it's not enjoyable anymore? So same thing with watches. Like, I think it's important for you to point out the flaws where you're like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But my 2 cents, the best reviewers are able to look at it from a perspective of here's the specs, here's here's my experience with it,
Hmm.
and that's really hard because
Yeah.
you're then kind of creating your own categories in which
Hmm.
to kind of um, I'm trying to think of examples of people who do it really well of like, the Skylar score or like the Skylar test. Um,
Right.
oh, what there was one watch reviewer I really liked in the UK where he would do a video where he just walks around like a small town in like suburban London, and he would then
Okay.
like have the watch and then like the area. And so he just paired traveling, doing day trips with the watch
Okay.
reviews. And it was so cool and so fun.
Mm.
Um, and I think again, this is not like for you. This is more of like what I would like.
No, I
I
hear
would
you.
love
No,
to
I hear
have
you.
more watch reviewers of like what it's like to experience the watch and what kind of watches are best for that experience. So like the interview that you did yesterday with not Lumix but ProTech. Um,
Mhm.
they have very specific watches. Like you're talking about like the 45 mil of like the type of people you said like the guys cutting down trees, you know? And so if you did a video then of taking the ProTech and you were like, I'm gonna cut down some trees today, and you just like taking an axe, chopping a tree, and then just being like that's so cool. But that's
Right.
so much more work, so much
Oh
more
yeah.
work, and it's not replicable to every watch. Like you
Yeah.
may get like a Seiko, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this.
Mm.
um, and so I think that's where I don't envy you of you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either you can
Mhm.
create some extremely unique, review, but that requires so much energy per watch
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
scalable, or you just do the fluff piece of like it's great, it's great, it's great. Then no one really cares. Or then you start being more critical, but then watch brands don't want to send you stuff.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
talking about that Venn diagram. So all that to say, what what do you think makes the best watch review?
I think the what makes the best watch review, and I'll stay on target for how I'm constructing it now moving forward. I have my specific way of reviewing set watch. Watch gets sent to me. I then put it through its trials and tribulations. So what I mean by that is I can go on your website and see what the measurements are. I use my calipers, whether or not maybe I measure it wrong or not, I don't care. I always try to get the dead on measurement, but I rather give everyone watching what I found on my calibers, what I found on my scale, what I found on my sapphire crystal tester, on my time graph. You can see all the things that I have behind me that I utilize to put the watch through its paces. With that, I also like to wear the watch for at least a week's amount of time. Anybody can open up a box and say, "Oh, this and this is that." But like I've discovered things by wearing the watch. I'll give you an example. I'm sitting behind me is a watch that I'm reviewing currently and working on that. And it has an integrated bracelet that doesn't have half links. And that bites my button as a watch enthusiast. And a lot of people at home would say the same thing. What I have found though is that even though it's set to be a little looser because I can't get the exact fitting that I want for it, it's not sliding down my wrist as much as I expected it to. And that's just simply because the watch is super thin and it has a wide enough diameter for the actual watch head where it's just catching the surface area enough, even though that watch is technically not to my perfect fit where it falls past that point of my bone. And it's not doing that. I say all that to say this: the perfect way that I like to construct my reviews is to really give the watch a personal experience first, find my own personal findings, and then no, I'm not searching so hard for a drawback of the watch. If I have my certain way of doing things, it's going to come to light. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh man, at the end of this review, I've said nothing bad about the watch. Well, I've got to say something. I've got to say something." I don't do that. No, it's stupid. And you know what? I keep my opinions to be objective instead of subjective. And if I am being subjective, I explain why I'm being subjective. And if I'm biased, I even explain to you in the review I'm biased. I love Marktime. He sent me a watch. I'm really excited to do this review. That being said, I'm going to give you my honest opinion about it because he's not going to cut me off because I told him, I said in the review that I think that the lugs should be more angled. I'm just giving an example. That's not the truth. And that's just the way I go about it. It just takes so much pressure off of me. And even still, with all that I just said to you, someone in the comment is going to be like, well, he just said nice things because they're friends, or he gave him a free watch. So why am I going to stress myself if that person's going to exist regardless? And like, I think that that morally is the way to go about it, and just functionally and fun and fair, because my real goal is to affect valuable change to not only just reviewers who are interested in specific set watch, but also I want the brands to get better. I've rejected watches that had too many negatives to it. And I don't review a watch if I think that it's going to be catastrophic for them. Well, why not? You should be saying the truth. Well, that's not in line with my goal. I want that brand to, if they're trying to enter into the micro brand space, be able to do so gracefully. And they're asking for my professional opinion. So instead of just saying 100 things that's wrong with the watch, I rather just send it back to them, send them an email and say, hey, look, these are the things that I think you need to fix first in order to connect with my viewers and the watch enthusiasts that I serve. And that's basically it. And if somebody cuts me off for the process that I just explained to you, there's going to be a watch brand right behind them that's ready to work with me. And I say that confidently and humbly. I don't say that with a big head. I just say that, how it is. That was a long explanation.
So I'll wrap up my questions. I heard you say your goal is to help change
Yes.
micro brands for the better by providing that feedback. So is that your primary North Star? Do you have any other North Stars for the Skylar channel?
Foster communities, and also I want to impact that. I want to foster the communities that are within the groups already by creating my own circles or being rocket fuel for other circles. And ultimately everything could be combined into one thing, which is make more watch enthusiasts. I think that we can easily forget, as roped in as we are to this whole process, that there's so much less of us in the real world than there is in the world of YouTube and doing things like this. Just walk down the block. How many people have an Apple Watch? How many people have no watch? How many people don't know what a movement is? So I think that I want people to be more welcoming to the idea of being an enthusiast, and then it not feel overwhelming or rejecting.
Cool. Any other questions from the chat? You asked me to keep an eye. I can't see it, but I saw one pop up.
No worries. Best watch review is honest about it does. That's not really a question, is it? Says, let's see if there's an actual guys. We're live, guys. If you have any questions that we missed, please just type them in real quick. I do apologize. I try to keep my best eye on it, but there's so much going on and there's so much enthusiasm between us two watch nerds talking. So if you have a question, now would be the time to put it in chat. If we did miss it, I'm just scrolling through it, and I haven't bumped into one yet that we haven't addressed so far. But was that all the questions? So the watch is still manufactured in Germany or China. You addressed that one. Yeah, I think we got them all. Actually, we did a good job. Any other questions, Mark, while I have you, for myself, or anything you want to conclude and add to the conversation before we end things?
No, just very excited to see your progression. It would have sucked if we got on this call and I rewatched your videos and been like, oof, this sucks. So it's just been nice to see your progression and then kind of just check in with you. So yeah, next time that you feel like, I don't know, you've gotten a little bit better, or I've gotten a little bit better, let's check back in and do this again.
Yeah, I want to make this an annual thing. I think that that's the easiest time. Maybe it's around the same time, or maybe if we just happen to be free. My door's always open. We just have to work out the schedule thing. But I definitely want to do this and check in with you from year to year. And like I extended my my value to Barry, if you are interested in reviewers outside, we'll talk offline.
Yeah.
But I do want to also connect you with everything else. But yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for having us. The chat is thanking you as well. And this was an absolute pleasure to have you on and give us the breakdown and give us the updates of everything as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to do so.
Happy to have the excuse to chat.
Perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Marktime watches, always an absolute gentleman. I have so much time, fun having a chat with him. Thank you guys for being so involved in the chat. If you are watching this on the playback, take the time to set your comments. Mark will be reading them after the fact, and he will answer them and address any questions that you may have if you missed this on the live stream. In the description, you can also find our first interview. I employ, if you want to know more of the backstory and the ethos of Marktime, do watch that. He breaks down all of the models little by little and goes into it. And then this video is more of like the continuation to that conversation. With that being said, I appreciate you guys for spending your most valuable asset, which is time. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Later, guys. Peace.